Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the concrete principles from Thomas Alethia's 12 Steps to a Good Life to completely demystify fitness. We're going to strip away the guilt, the confusion, and those expensive gym memberships. Instead, we're focusing on one simple, undeniable truth: the math of your own body. Specifically, we're zeroing in on your training heart rate. It's this fascinating, incredibly practical tool that tells you exactly how much effort you actually need to put in to live a healthy, vibrant life. So let's get into it. Okay, to kick things off, we need to fundamentally reframe how we view physical activity. The word exercise just carries so much negative baggage, doesn't it? I mean, it implies forcing yourself into a state of physical effort on this rigid, demanding schedule. It's wrapped up in all these shoulds and needs tos. But think about how our ancestors lived. They didn't exercise, they just moved. They walked, ran, climbed, and stretched, mostly for natural survival, but also for enjoyment. Movement is continuous, it's varied, and honestly, it can actually be fun. So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll reframe exercise as movement. Second, we're going to look at measuring your physical effort. Third, we'll calculate your actual training zone. And finally, we'll explore the incredible power of micro-workouts. All right, section 1. Reframe exercise as movement and ditch the guilt. Now, to ditch that guilt, we have to acknowledge that our lazy, modern survival instincts, the ones that make walking to the fridge feel like a marathon, are completely working against us. We've got to stop forcing our bodies into the rigid boxes of chronos, clock time, and instead embrace continuous, natural movement. The ancient Greeks actually had these two concepts of time. Chronos is that ticking clock, the measurable, inevitable march of time that literally drives decay. It's the time we use to punish ourselves when we miss that scheduled 6 a.m. spin class. But then there's Kairos. Kairos is the right time, the moment when things happen naturally, like a flower blooming. When we shift from scheduled exercise in Chronos to natural movement in Kairos, we integrate physical activity into our lifestyle naturally, and best of all, entirely without the guilt. But naturally, this raises a really critical question. If we abandon strict gym routines and traditional exercise rules, how do we actually measure our progress? I mean, if we're just moving naturally, how do we know we aren't just letting those lazy instincts take the wheel? Well, we need a metric. We need something that cuts right through our own excuses. Which brings us to section 2, measure your physical effort. Because your pulse cannot lie. You can absolutely lie to yourself about how hard you're working, but your pulse? It will never lie to you. According to the source material, a casual goal is to get about 20 to 30 minutes of moderate physical activity a day. But the dividing line between just kind of moving around and actually getting moderate or vigorous activity, the kind that protects your heart, builds stamina, and guards against depression, that line is found squarely in your training heart rate. Moving right along to section 3, calculate your training zone and find your sweet spot. I highly encourage you to do the math for your own age right alongside me as we go through these 3 simple steps to find your 50% to 75% target training zone. First up, we need your absolute ceiling, your maximum heart rate. You find this by taking the number 220 and subtracting your current age. Simple enough, right? But remember, you don't want to actually work out at your maximum. That's your absolute limit. You want to find your training zone. So for step 2, you take that maximum heart rate and multiply it by 0.50 to find your 50% lower boundary. Then for step 3, you multiply your maximum heart rate by 0.75 to get your 75% upper boundary. Let's make this concrete. Taking a specific example from the source text of a 66-year-old, 220 minus 66 gives us a maximum heart rate of exactly 154. So that's the theoretical maximum number of times this individual's heart can beat in a single minute. Now, applying those percentages to that 154 maximum, our 66-year-old's optimal training zone sits perfectly between 77 and 115.5 beats per minute. That right there is their sweet spot. If their heart rate is under 77, they're resting or just doing some very light movement. But if it's between 77 and 115, they are successfully engaging in moderate physical activity. They are officially in the zone. If you just did the math for yourself, seriously, write those 2 numbers down. That is your personalized target. That is the objective mathematical truth of your physical effort. So, with your personal target zone calculated, you can now elevate your heart rate using any of these 3 broad, really enjoyable movement categories. You absolutely do not have to just run endlessly on a treadmill to hit your heart rate zone. You can use aerobic activities, think brisk walking, swimming, or martial arts. You can use strength training like bodyweight push-ups or lifting dumbbells, which, as the text reminds us, is absolutely vital for muscle mass and bone density. Or you can engage in functional fitness.
These are activities that mimic real-life movements, like squats, lunges, or honestly, even just carrying heavy groceries from the car. As long as your heart rate reaches that mathematical sweet spot you just calculated, you are winning.
All right, our final section, Section 4, the power of micro workouts, how small changes really do stack up.
Because let's be real, knowing your target heart rate is only half the battle, right? We need a way to actually get up off the couch. The source text really emphasizes these 1 to 5 minute micro workouts, proving that ridiculously small changes are actually powerful enough to bypass our mental resistance. Our brains are incredibly good at talking us out of a grueling 45-minute workout. We think, oh, it's too hard, or I don't have time, or I'm going to get all sweaty. But your brain cannot logically object to doing exactly one stretch when you wake up. It can't object to marching in place for just 30 seconds while your coffee is brewing. It's almost comical how easily these ridiculously small changes slip right past your mental radar. And the real secret here? These micro workouts stack up. If you do 3 or 4 short, intense micro workouts spread throughout your day, you can elevate your heart rate into that target zone multiple times, providing you with real, measurable health benefits.
I want to share this profound quote from the ancient physician Herophilus. When health is absent, wisdom cannot reveal itself. Wealth becomes useless. It powerfully reminds us why making these small, calculated changes to our movement habits is the ultimate foundation for a good life. He really understood that your physical body is the anchor for everything else. You can have all the wisdom in the world and all the money in the bank, but if you haven't taken the time to move your body and elevate your heart rate, your quality of life is inevitably going to suffer. Health isn't just some physical metric. It is the literal prerequisite for enjoying the rest of your life. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. How will you apply this math today to begin your own hero's journey toward better health? You know your numbers now. You know the exact boundary between inactivity and life-giving movement. And you know that you don't need an expensive gym. You really just need a micro workout. So what is the one ridiculously small movement you are going to do right now, today, to push your pulse into that sweet spot? The math is in your hands. The effort is entirely up to you.